In 1985, one of the most powerful companies on Earth made a decision so controversial that customers flooded company phone lines, stockpiled old products, and demanded an immediate reversal. This wasn't a small startup. It was Coca-Cola. Good day, guys, and welcome to Flop Files.
Okay, to really wrap our heads around the sheer magnitude of this historical flop, we got to look at Coca-Cola's absolute dominance right before the crisis hit. For nearly a century, Coca-Cola, well, it wasn't just a beverage, right? It was literally a symbol of American heritage. They had built this incredible, almost unspoken contract with the public. They were marketed everywhere as the real thing. For decades, through world wars, economic crashes, you name it, Coke just maintained this unchanging quality, and for a really long time, an unwavering 5-cent price tag. People had this deep emotional expectation that Coca-Cola would just always be there, reliable, constant, like an old friend. But underneath that bulletproof corporate armor, a massive storm was brewing.
Chapter 1. The Cola Wars Escalate. So, moving into the late 70s and early 80s, the whole soft drink landscape was shifting, big time. Coca-Cola, the absolute reigning king, was suddenly staring down a massive threat from an up-and-comer, Pepsi. They were aggressively positioning themselves as the drink for the Pepsi generation, and the contrast was stark. Coke was leaning heavily into nostalgia, heritage, the comfort of the past. Pepsi, on the other hand, they pushed a sweeter taste and this vibrant, youthful energy. And they weren't just talking. They launched the now legendary Pepsi Challenge. These were highly publicized blind taste tests done right out in public areas. And the results? They absolutely shocked the industry. They proved out in the open that when blindfolded, most people actually preferred the sweeter, syrupy flavor of Pepsi over classic Coke.
You can imagine the utter panic setting in at Coca-Cola headquarters. I mean, the numbers were just terrifying for them. Right after World War II, Coca-Cola held a staggering 60% of the U.S. market. But by 1984, that massive lead had completely evaporated, down to just 22%. And Pepsi was breathing right down their necks at 18%. Coke executives were losing sleep. The pool of exclusive Coke drinkers was shrinking fast. Brand awareness was slipping. Corporate panic was in full swing. They felt like they had to do something absolutely drastic.
Chapter 2. The New Coke Gamble. Desperate to stop the bleeding, Coke decided to make a truly monumental change. They launched Project Kansas. This was an incredibly secretive, closed-door mission to alter their 99-year-old secret formula. Just to give you a sense of the gravity here, internal memos were literally comparing the boldness of this project to the 1944 Allied invasion of Europe. The goal was to make Coke sweeter and smoother using corn syrup, completely ditching the original coca leaf and cola nut extracts. Basically, they were trying to beat Pepsi at its own game. But they didn't just guess. The executives went all in on big data. They dropped over $4 million and ran nearly 200,000 blind taste tests across every single demographic in the country. 200,000. And the data definitively proved their hypothesis. The new formula consistently beat both Pepsi and the original Coke in blind tests. In the sterile, controlled environment of a lab, it was an undeniable triumph.
Armed with a mountain of data, Coke's CEO at the time, Roberto Goizueta, confidently announced, "To market research experts, to our bottlers, and to the retail trade, these numbers represent a staggering superiority." The executives felt totally bulletproof. But you see, this supreme reliance on hard numbers completely blinded them to the catastrophic mistake they were about to make. They didn't just decide to launch new Coke. They decided to completely, unceremoniously kill off the beloved 99-year-old original formula.
Chapter 3. A Nation Outraged.
April 23, 1985, New Coke officially launches with massive fanfare. But the public reaction? It wasn't just negative. It was sudden, visceral, and totally explosive. I mean, almost overnight, the sensory chaos was palpable. The company's hotline went from a sleepy 400 routine calls a day to 8,000 furious calls a day. They got hit with over 40,000 angry protest letters. People started panic buying and hoarding old Coke in their basements. One guy in Texas literally bought $1,000 worth of original Coke just to stash it away. Grassroots groups like the Old Colored Drinkers of America popped up instantly, spending tens of thousands of their own dollars to fight this. People were staging actual protests, pouring new Coke straight into street storm drains. In one wild story, a woman in Georgia actually attacked a Coke delivery driver with her umbrella, just for trying to stock the new stuff on the shelves. No joke. The sheer emotional weight of this whole debacle is perfectly captured in one of the actual letters the company received. A heartbroken customer wrote, "Changing Coke is like God making the grass purple. My dearest Coke, you have betrayed me." The media completely fanned the flames, treating these executives like vandals who had just defaced a national monument. Because it wasn't about the taste anymore. It was fueled by something called reactance. That's a powerful psychological anger that flares up when people feel their freedom of choice has been arbitrarily ripped away.
It felt like a corporate disaster of epic proportions. Could the world's biggest brand survive this? If you're enjoying this story, subscribe to Flat Files and share this video with a friend who loves business stories, internet culture, and famous downfalls. Chapter 4. The 79-Day Surrender. Back at headquarters in Atlanta, Coca-Cola's executives were just stunned. Even their own local bottlers were begging for the old drink back, complaining they were becoming social pariahs in their own hometowns. CEO Roberto Gozueta was literally getting hate mail addressed to Chief Dodo. Slowly, and very painfully, they started to realize the truth. Their flawless, million-dollar data had completely missed the deep emotional and cultural connection that America had with the original brand. So the lifespan of this blunder was incredibly short. The new formula launched on April 23rd. By June, the nationwide backlash hit its absolute peak. And on July 11th, 1985, just 79 days after that massive launch, Coca-Cola executed a spectacular corporate retreat. They announced the return of the original formula. This was such a massive cultural moment that ABC News anchor Peter Jennings actually interrupted the hit daytime soap opera General Hospital with a special bulletin just to announce the news to the nation.
The reversal was met with pure, unadulterated joy. A massive sigh of relief just swept the whole country. Within 2 days of the announcement, the Coca-Cola hotline received 31,600 calls of absolute gratitude. And ironically, this monumental flop turned into one of the most massive PR boosts in corporate history. Sales of the newly named Coca-Cola Classic just skyrocketed. It easily surpassed the new formula, which kind of just faded away as Coke 2, and ultimately, Coca-Cola went on to absolutely crush Pepsi in the ensuing years of the Cola Wars.
Chapter 5. The Ultimate Business Lesson. So why is a 1985 blunder now a foundational marketing case study taught in universities all over the world? Well, there are 3 core takeaways here. First, don't bet the farm on big data alone. Yes, data can perfectly measure the physical taste of a product on the first sip, but it can never, ever measure nostalgia, or emotional loyalty, or cultural heritage. Second, innovation should add, not replace. If Coke had just released New Coke as an alternative option right alongside the original, it honestly might have been a solid hit. And third, customers ultimately own the brand, not the executives sitting in the boardroom. Which ties directly back into that fascinating psychological concept we mentioned, reactance. It's that strong negative reaction when people feel their behavioral freedoms or choices are being threatened or eliminated. The failure of New Coke was never really about the flavor profile, was it? It was about a massive corporation swooping in, taking away a beloved piece of the American identity, and forcing a change literally no one asked for. So, who really owns a brand? Perhaps the biggest lesson wasn't that Coca-Cola made a mistake. It was that even the world's most powerful brands can lose touch with the people who made them successful in the first place. What beloved brand do you think is making this exact same mistake right now? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching Flop Files.